All right, and I think we just had a new user jump in, so let me check them, and then once we clear that, we will be ready to start.
Cal, this is Tab. Can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay, it's not allowing me to connect to my camera, so I'll just do audio.
That's fine. Not a problem. And we are live on YouTube, so Chairman Goose,
Okay.
you have the floor.
Well, welcome everyone to the January 20th Pitt County Planning Board meeting. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and Happy New Year to everybody. And I'll let Tab call the roll for us.
Fred Austin.
Present.
Faye Barefoot.
Present.
Don Brown.
Present.
Naomi Buck.
Present.
David Davenport.
Here.
Brad Guth.
Here.
RJ Hemby. RJ Hemby. John Landron.
Present.
Steve Little.
Here.
And Maria Rogerson.
Here.
That completes the roll call.
Thank you, Ms. Alton. Now, if we could bow our heads for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Now, if you all will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The planning board members should have the minutes from the December 16th meeting. Did everybody receive those? And if so, I would appreciate a motion to approve.
I move the minutes be approved.
Second, Don Brown.
And Mr. Don Brown has seconded that motion. And Ms. Alton, I think we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, we did have one change to the minutes, and that was Ms. Faye Fairfoot was present. So I've added her as a present member.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Fred Austin.
Approve the minutes.
Faye Barefoot. Faye Barefoot.
She's muted.
Ms. Barefoot, do you approve the minutes?
Approve.
Thank you. Don Brown.
Approve.
Naomi Buck.
I approve.
David Davenport.
Approve.
Brad Guth.
Approve.
John Landron.
Approve.
Steve Little.
Approved.
Tucker Moore. I'm sorry, Maria Rogerson.
Approved.
Okay.
Thank you. Fourth item on our agenda tonight is public addresses to the board, and we'll be able to address those as the rezoning requests come up. So we'll move on to item number 5, which is our planning board liaison. That is going to be Mr. Tom Colson. Commissioner Colson has been our appointed liaison, and he is going to continue in that term until December 31st, 2021. Not sure if Mr. Colson is on the call with us today, but appreciate his service, continued service to the board. Now we'll move on to our rezoning requests, and Mr. Eric Gooby will take number 6, Glendon Forest Equity LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our first rezone request tonight, as you mentioned, is from Glendon Forest Equity. It's to rezone about 1.5 acres of property. It's currently owned by Marvin Ray Manning Sr. It's parcel numbers 34842, 36680, and 38945. It's located on the southeastern corner of the intersection of US 264 East and North Grimesland Bridge Road. And the request is to go from rural residential to general commercial. You see the site area with the red asterisk. That's the location of the property. It's at the eastern side of the county off 264, just before you get to Beaufort County. This is a picture of the property itself. There's currently a manufactured home located on it that's a residence for Mr. Manning. It encompasses the 3 properties. Again, this is an additional portion of the property itself. And then this is the view of the property as it is from 264. And then another view of the property, again, also from 264 highway. This is a view of North Grimesland Bridge Road. If you're looking to the south, as if you're heading back towards Grimesland. And then this is looking to the north towards the intersection with Grimesland Bridge Road and 264. And this is the view back towards the west on 264 as if you're heading back towards Greenville. And then to the east as if you're heading towards Beaufort County in Washington. These are some of the adjacent residences. And then there's also some existing commercial land uses in the area. This is Cratch's Furniture and Pottery, the Cratch's Stone Yard, and then also another sort of industrial business out there. The 2030 Comprehensive Land Use Plan designates the property as a commercial crossroads community. What that means is it's intended to include limited commercial land uses that are appropriate to crossroads development. These types of uses would include a mix of residential, public, institutional, and commercial uses. And then residential uses can be located near non-residential uses with appropriate buffering. Land uses could develop with sewer or private septic tanks. And this category is designated at prominent crossroads locations throughout the county, where such types of development provide goods and services to a larger surrounding population. The existing land use, see it's currently designated as residential. There's a lot of residential between 264 and Old Washington Road. And then you also see some of the blue, which is the institutional uses, and some other commercial land uses also nearby. The zoning of the county, see it's currently rural residential. There's some industrial back to the west up 264. Also, if you remember just not too long ago, about a year ago, the property on the corner of Old Washington Road and 264 that was rezoned to general commercial for a mechanic shop or auto repair. The general commercial district is intended to accommodate a range of retail, service, office, limited wholesale, and moderate density multifamily residential uses. Those areas that have access to major thoroughfares and the necessary utilities to support that development. Also, the property is located within the Highway Corridor Overlay District. This means that any development that goes on there would have to have additional buffering and screening along the highway as well as from adjacent residential properties. Staff does find that the request is consistent with the county's comprehensive land use plan, given its designation as a commercial crossroads community, as well as its proximity to other general commercial and general industrial zone properties along 264. Staff also finds that it's reasonable and in the public interest because, again, it is located at a major intersection within an area that's designated for commercial crossroads development. And there are also several existing commercial land uses in close proximity. So staff does recommend approval of the request to rezone the property from rural residential to general commercial. This time we'd like to entertain public comments, and the board will make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, and they're scheduled to hold a public hearing on February 15th. So with that, Mr. Chair, we'd like to turn it over for any comments.
Okay, are there any questions for Eric from the planning board? I don't see any hands up. And are there any public comments? I don't see anybody wishing to talk on that. Do I hear a recommendation from the planning board?
Motion to approve.
Second the motion.
Ms. Barefoot has a motion to approve the request, and I believe Mr. Little has seconded that motion. So if we could have a roll call vote, Ms. Otten.
Okay. Fred Austin,
Approve.
Faye Barefoot,
Approve.
Don Brown,
Approve.
Naomi Buck,
Approve.
David Davenport,
Approve.
Brad Goose,
Approve.
John Landron,
Approve.
Steve Little,
Approved.
and Maria Rogerson.
Approved.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Gooby, I believe we have number 7 is Ochoa Properties LLC.
Sir.
Rezoning request.
The second request is Ochoa Properties NC LLC. The request is to rezone 2.197 acres. It's parcel number 27484. It's on the southern side of Worthington Road. The request is to go from rural residential to general commercial conditional district. And this would be to allow an auto repair business. Here with the vicinity map, you see with the asterisks, it's located on the southern side of Worthington Road. It's just west of NC 43 South in Hollywood Crossroads. You see D.H. Conley there at the Crossroads intersection, and it's just to the east of Winterville also. This is a view of the subject property. You can see there's an existing residence towards the front of the property. That's not actually included in the request, and I'll share that plan that's been submitted along with the application in just a minute. But the property itself that's being rezoned also has 3 structures that are currently existing. They're not planning to add any more at this time, or not included on that proposed site plan. This is a view to the east on Worthington Road as though you're looking back towards Hollywood Crossroads and D.H. Conley High School. And then a view to the west as if you're heading back towards County Home Road and back in towards Winterville. This is a view of the existing shop building. It was previously operated as a repair shop for a number of years. That was a non-conforming use, and it's been closed down for a number of years. And so in order to reestablish the use as auto repair, they've got to bring it up into compliance with our current zoning requirements and have the rezoning that they're requesting tonight. This is another structure that's located on the property. And there's some surrounding commercial uses that are close by. This was Mills Market that's up at the Hollywood's Crossroads across from D.H. Conley. And then there's also an existing mini storage that is located off of Worthington Road, also just across from D.H. Conley High School. This is a view of the high school itself. And then if you were to head back to the west towards the crossroads, there's also some commercial uses at that intersection. There's an auto used car dealership, as well as another convenience store, Charlie's Grill. And land use plan calls for this property to be suburban residential. You see it is just west of the commercial crossroads community that surrounds the Hollywood's Crossroads. The suburban residential is intended to include residential land uses, including single family manufactured home subdivision and manufactured home parks. as well as limited multifamily and non-residential type of uses that meet locational criteria. That type of criteria would include frontage and access to a major state highway or secondary road, location of a major intersection, proximity to similar uses, and spatial separation from non-compatible uses such as existing residential uses. This land is distinguished by the greater potential for development and the inclusion of a broader range of land uses. See the existing land use map. There's a lot of existing residential that's on the northern side of Worthington Road, as well as a little pocket where this property is. You also see some existing commercial land uses, particularly the mini storage and the convenience store at Hollywood's Crossroads, as well as some a little bit further to the south on NC 43. As well as this map doesn't quite show it, but there's also, as I mentioned, some commercial land uses back towards the crossroads at Worthington and County Home Road, as well as a mini storage business that's up on McLaurin Farm Road. The zoning map, you see it's currently zoned rural residential, but there's a significant amount of commercial zoning that's nearby, particularly at the crossroads area and on NC 43 South. The general commercial district is intended to accommodate a range of retail, service, office, limited wholesale, moderate density multifamily, again, in those areas that have access to major thoroughfares and the utilities to support that type of development. Again, this is also a conditional zoning district, and that does allow for the approval of a proposal for a specific use with reasonable conditions in order to ensure the compatibility of the proposed use with the use and enjoyment of neighboring properties. And again, that proposed use is automobile repair, which is just a continuation or a starting back up what was previously there on the property. This is the site plan that was submitted with the request. I'll just kind of go through a few things. This is the red dashed outline is the property that's being requested. It's part of a larger parcel. There's still about 5 or so acres remaining on this parcel that would remain zone residential, including the front portion where there's an existing single family residence. You see in the back, the 3 structures that I noted in the pictures that will be located on the commercially zoned portion if it's approved, as well as there's an existing greenhouse, which is located pretty much where the proposed new driveway would go in. You see the previous, when it operated previously, they shared the driveway with the residents. And so they're proposing to add a new driveway on the other side of the home to access the business. And again, that greenhouse being in the middle of it, that'll need to be removed and will need to be noted on the plan. And we'll note that in the conditions when we provide our staff recommendation. They're also proposing off the driveway to prevent any traffic from going in through the residential driveway. The other thing is they're proposing to, there's a gravel area that's proposed for a new parking area that'll be paved. And then there's some existing vegetation to the rear, which will help to serve any kind of screening. But again, the rear property is the remainder of the parent parcel. So staff does find the request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. Again, the property is designated suburban residential, as well as its proximity to existing general commercial zone properties, as well as the NC 43 South Hollywood Crossroads intersection. Staff also finds that it's reasonable and in the public interest, again, because it was previously operated as an automobile repair business and is in close proximity to other commercial land uses, including a mini storage and 2 convenience stores. So staff does recommend approval to rezone the property from rural residential to general commercial conditional district to operate the automobile repair business. And we do have several additional conditions that we're recommending tonight. The first is that the lot shall not be maintained, used, or operated as a salvage yard for storing, keeping, buying, or selling wrecked, scrap, ruined, or dismantled motor vehicles or motor vehicle parts. No more than 2 unlicensed used motor vehicles which cannot be operated under their own power may be kept or stored on the property for a period of 15 days or more. And the reason for this condition is that under the previous auto repair business, they did have a large number of junk vehicles that they kept in the back of the property. And this is an effort to sort of prevent that from happening again. We did have to take some enforcement action on them several years ago, and the property has since been cleaned up. So we'd like to ensure that the use as proposed stays that way, and that it stays cleaned up and doesn't have any more issues with junk vehicles. Also, we'll need a revised site plan to show a minimum 10-foot wide buffer yard to screen the parking area. Because there's more than 10 spaces that are required, it does require that 10-foot buffer. So that plan will have to be revised. And also a note should be required that the existing greenhouse will be removed from the proposed driveway area. Any required parking spaces, access drives, and loading areas shall be paved and maintained with concrete, asphalt, or similar material. And as the site plan's already noted, that will be provided. Also, for any future development, there'll need to be a soil erosion and sedimentation control plan submitted for any land disturbance over 1 acre, and also must comply with the Pitt County Stormwater Ordinance for nutrient control. And those are standard comments for site plan reviews. Also, when your staff reports went out in the packets, NCDOT had not responded with their comments. That we've since received them, and their comment was basically just that they would have to obtain a driveway permit, and they'll need to comply with all requirements for access to the property due to the change in the use of the property in the back. They also need to obtain all required permits from Pitt County inspections in order to occupy those structures, ensure that they're still in compliance with the building code and complying with the commercial code and are safe to occupy, and also to comply with any applicable environmental health requirements for wastewater disposal. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to turn over to public comments, at which time and then the planning board make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, who's scheduled to hold a hearing on February 15th also.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gooby.
Thank you.
The staff recommends approval of this. Are there any questions from the planning board?
Just a question. Sorry.
Nope, go ahead. Mr. Little.
Just a question. Is the owner today, Eric, the same operator of the auto repair business years ago?
No, sir, it's a different owner operator.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chair, if I may also, we did receive one email I'd like to share with the board today.
Yes, please.
It's from a James Martin. He and his wife own the property directly across from this at 1865 Worthington Road. And he called, and they have a couple concerns they'd like to make known, and just would, if the board wanted to address, they could. It says, Eric, thank you for discussing this issue of the rezoning with us. After the discussion, we came to the following conclusions. The property requesting rezoning has always been a part of this stable residential neighborhood. The shop sits back from the street, and we appreciate the efforts made to improve the house facing Worthington Road. Our property is directly across the street from this proposed facility. It will be most directly affected by a new driveway and elaborate signage. Worthington Road is only a 2-lane road and already very busy with cars flying by all the time. The additional drive will make for much more stop and go traffic coming and going from that property, and more noise, which could have adverse effects for the occupants who live in our house. Safety for children and pets is also a concern. Signage could also be an issue. If it were large and lighted, it would significantly reduce the quality of life at our house, 1865 Worthington Road. We only want to protect our investment and retain the value of our property as a desired rental. In summary, we do not object to the business per se. However, there's a lot of difference in a backyard shop and a full-blown auto repair operation. Like most self-employed people, their goal would be to grow their business. We therefore would object to any additional access or driveway and any large lighted signage. I am a licensed practicing real estate agent and believe that changes such as these could certainly have an adverse effect on surrounding property values. Thank you for allowing us to express ourselves. James S. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Gooby. Is there any way for us to limit lighting or signage as he's asking us to do?
There could be, you can place reasonable limits on it in terms of when they could have the signage lit. I don't even know if they intend to light the signage or not.
Right.
The previous business just had a wood sign and it wasn't lighted, but there could be limits placed on it. We also do have some standards in our ordinance for lighting just in general, but that's more for area lighting as opposed to the signage.
Okay.
And they also noted the concerns about the driveway, but again, from our standpoint, it's the new driveway is needed so that they're not sharing that driveway with the existing residents any longer. And so that they have a dedicated entrance for the business itself. And again, DOT did review it and they didn't make any comments about the traffic or needing any sort of measures to try to control that.
Okay.
John Landry, is there no then current sign ordinance for that area?
We do. Once it's zoned commercial, they would be allowed to have an on-premise sign under the commercial zoning district, and it does allow for a fairly large sign. It could be up to 200 square feet with, or not. I'm sorry, but it would be a larger size sign that would be allowed. So we don't know what their plan is for their signage though at this point.
Does it currently allow an internally lighted sign or externally lighted sign?
It could, yes, sir. We don't have any restrictions against it.
Are there any other questions from the board? Are there any other comments that need to be made?
Is the public hearing open yet, Mr. Chairman?
Mike, if you want to go ahead, that'd be fine.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. I'm Mike Baldwin, and I represent ACOA Properties NC LLC. And when I got that name, I thought it was somebody who moved from Hawaii to Pitt County, only to find out that this is Sergio ACOA that owns Sergio's Painting, and they do painting and sheetrock. And, you know, I think most of you are probably real familiar with Sergio. He's got an outstanding business, a very competent businessman and painter in what he does. He does a lot for people providing jobs as well. He owns this property, and like Eric said, it did used to be a garage in the past. It did used to have some little tattoos with it, you know, cleaning up the back and things like that. But if you'll ride out there today, the facility is very nice. One thing that you can't see on this, and Eric might have a shot from the road on the right side of the property, is there is an extremely heavy vegetated buffer already between the Beatrice Pfeiffer property and this property as well. So I asked Sergio, you know, did any of the residents that he was aware of, you know, like Rebecca Jones, have any problems with what he was doing? And he indicated that they did not. So and I don't see with 3 repair bays, I completely understand the Martins' concern across the road. But what I would like to do between now and the commissioners meeting is I'll get with Sergio and talk more about the signage issue, because he wants to be a good neighbor. And if the ordinance will allow a 200 square foot sign, I have no idea he wants to build anything like that. I think it's going to be probably a smaller sign in keeping with what was there in the past. And I don't see anything highly illuminated, just something fairly simple there. So in addition to that, I'll be glad, and Eric identified the concern for the new access, exactly how it was intended to keep these customers from going through the home that he's you know, fixed up. And you can see it from the slides that Eric's taken. He's done a lot to dress that home up and make it look nice. With that said, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Are there any other questions from the planning board? All right, we have a recommendation for approval from the staff. Do I hear any motions or any other questions?
I move we grant approval.
Mr. Little has made a motion to approve.
Second. David Davenport.
David Davenport has seconded it. Ms. Otten, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Fred Austin,
Approve.
Faye Barefoot,
Approve.
Don Brown,
Approve.
Naomi Buck,
Approve.
David Davenport,
Approve.
Brad Goose,
Approve.
John Landron,
Approve.
Steve Little,
Approved.
and Maria Rogerson.
Approved.
All right, thank you. So planning board to recommend to the county commissioners at their February 15th meeting that they approve this recommendation. Right. Eric, I think you have the next item as well, the North Carolina 43 South Corridor Land Use Plan.
Sir, I do. Just want to give a quick update on what we've done with the land use plan and kind of where we're at in the process since we met back in December. As the board probably remembers, back on December 16th, we conducted our second virtual public input meeting. Also that same night presented that draft plan to this board. And then since that time, we have been working to solicit additional public input and comments. We've posted the draft plan on our website, and also we have a link on there as well, just a short 3-question survey, just in terms of how the plan satisfies the vision for folks have in that area and what kind of concerns they still might have. That link was originally only going to be open until about the 8th of January. We extended it to the 15th, which was last Friday. And we've decided to again extend it to the end of this week on the 22nd, just in an effort to try to get some more comments from it. We have received about 50 responses so far. And we're still working to go through those to see which ones are substantive and which ones might need to address a little bit more in the plan. So we'll be having some more information on that next month when we bring the plan back to the board. Again, we'll be based off that input. We're working to finalize that draft plan. We do have our last working group meeting. The working group, as the board members, that's the group that's sort of overseeing the development of this plan. We're meeting on January 27th to kind of talk through some of this public input to see what kind of changes need to be made. And so the plan that's on there now is the draft. This may not and most likely will not be the plan that ends up getting adopted. We do already have some things that we plan to change based off not just the input that we receive from the public, but also from some of our review partners and our working group members. DOT has some things that need to be updated. GUC's got some developments that need to be addressed. And so some of those recommendations and some of those items in our future land use map are going to be probably changed. And so you'll be seeing that. And so in next month's planning board meeting, we'll be looking to bring that plan back and present it in full to the board and have a public hearing for your review and recommendation. And once we get that recommendation, we'll take that on to the Board of County Commissioners, who are going to be holding a public hearing on March 15th. So again, that draft plan is currently available on our project website. It's pittcountync.gov /NC43 South Plan. And so again, you can go on there, review the plan, and then click on that link until Friday to give us any additional comments. And so, but if anybody's got any questions or comments, they're welcome to contact me. There's my contact information on the screen. And Mr. Chair, I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody might have tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Gooby. Does anyone have any questions? Has everybody gone and given their input on the webpage? All right, we'll encourage you to do that. And thank you, Mr. Gooby. And I think our next item is Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's good to be with you tonight. And thanks to Eric for his presentations earlier. I'm going to share my screen with you and go through a few informational items. And hope to carry you through these fairly quickly. So first up, we've got a major work program update that's coming through, and a lot of things involve the planning board. So needless to say, Eric just gave you an update on the NC 43 South plan. We really need to get that plan in place. There's a lot of activity in that area, and plus we've got a lot of other activities, a lot of other programs in the queue right now that we need to get started on. One of the major projects, which would certainly involve you, our current land use plan turns 10 years old later this year. So the comprehensive land use plan that would cover the entire unincorporated portion of Pitt County is in need of an update. So we've been through the Southwest Bypass Corridor Plan. We're currently working on the NC 43 South Corridor Plan. Those areas would already be updated, but we really need to look at the other portions of the county. So that is a big undertaking, and we would certainly like to start that probably about mid-year or at least in the fall. The Comprehensive Transportation Plan update, Pitt County is the lead agency on that. We've already had several meetings with the Department of Transportation and our community partners, and that program is moving along. That is about a year or a year and a half long process. So we'll be providing you updates as we get further along in that planning process. Here's the big one. You've heard us talk about our North Carolina general statutes have been updated pertaining to the planning regulations. It's considered a modernization of our planning regs. With that, we have to touch just about every one of our development ordinances. Staff has already been working on updates to the zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, some of our stormwater regulations. Those in turn will be coming your way for consideration in the next few months. These are to be in place by July 1st of this year. So you'll be tired of reviewing ordinance language, but I think we're going to try to get that to you in the next 2 or 3 months so you'll have time to absorb it, send on to the commissioners for their approval. Census 2020, you've heard us talk about that over the last year and a half. The enumeration process has been completed. We're now waiting on that information. Typically, the decennial census, we would have our first rollout, first indication of the total numbers at the end of that year, 2020. These have been delayed a bit, not surprisingly, because of the pandemic. We're expecting some of those initial data sets to come out early this year, and the data sets that we need for redistricting probably will come out sometime in the spring. Several staff members are attending a webinar tomorrow with the School of Government to talk about how to jumpstart or kick off our redistricting process this time. Some regulations have changed. So these are for the voter districts for the Board of Commissioners. That also aligns with some of your appointments as well. So we'll keep those in mind. One of our first mapping processes would be to identify where our commissioners that are currently seated reside, and also planning board members, just to get an indication. In a perfect world, we'd like to keep our commissioners in their existing districts if we start moving lines. So it is a process that will be handled later in the year. Hazard mitigation program, we're still waiting on FEMA funding for the buyout program. We've got about 20 properties we're looking at acquiring after that damage came through a couple of years ago. We hope to be hearing fairly soon. We've had some correspondence just this week about that program. Community development activities, we still have several ongoing programs for housing rehabilitation, and our homeless programs. Needless to say, with the pandemic and the recession and other issues going on, our homeless population has been adversely affected. We are trying to get folks in housing as fast as possible. So those are some of the highlights of our work program. You can see all the details in your agenda package tonight. But does anybody have any questions about any of the work program items before I hit on the other items for information?
Just a quick comment that seeing these might be a little difficult because they're front and back of page 53 and 54. You've got a lot of activities going on for 2021.
And if that one we try to keep it at least on 2 sheets. If that's hard to read, it is also posted on our webpage. So you're welcome to go on there and you can blow it up as big as you like to, Mr. Chairman.
I understand.
Make sure and help us stay on track.
I was just commenting on how you tried to squeeze everything onto 2 little pieces of paper.
It's a chore. Okay, we'll move on then. Some other items I mentioned already about Census 2020, and we gave an update to the commissioners over the last month or so. We had a conditional district rezoning. You may recall Mr. Otero's property on Highway 43. That was approved by the commissioners this month. The next request was actually one we don't get too often. It was to abandon a state maintained road. Usually we deal with roads being accepted by DOT. In this particular case, there's a new development site that would absorb an existing unpaved state road into that development plan. So in turn, the developers wanted to develop their road network from scratch. So they were going to absorb that area, that right of way into their plans. So that was abandoned or recommended for abandonment by the commissioners earlier this month. I mentioned some of our homeless plan and programs. We did get additional funding this year for the Emergency Solutions Grant. That is a rapid rehousing program and we're already administering it. The transfer of property to the town of Grifton, that involves buyout properties. We had 2 different grant programs that we acquired 8 properties in the Grifton town limits. The commissioners have agreed to deed that property along with all the restrictions to the town of Grifton for them to help maintain. That should, once the city or the town's council accepts that, those properties would be part of the city's or the town's maintenance program. Mr. Chairman, we have our monthly report for December and some other articles and all the tabs included in your package. And with that, we always send you to our planning webpage if you have any questions and need any additional information. Also, it's a direct link to the NC 43 South plan on that particular page. So we encourage you and the viewing public to pay attention. We've just updated our webpage, a lot of good information available there. So, Mr. Chairman, that's what we have for report tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you can do it however you like, but if you would like to adjourn as chair, having concluded all items on the agenda, you may do so, and that would avoid the roll call vote because I know that can be cumbersome. But it's up to you.
I was going to do a voice acclamation, but yes, I will declare us adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
It's a full screen.
Night, everyone.
Good morning. Meeting. Yeah.